Okay, guys. So the first part of the papers I sent out had this paper here. Now I know it had it twice, but that's only because you're supposed to cut it out, and I wanted you guys to just print all the papers um, that came with it, and I couldn't figure out a way to cut it digitally, so I just sent it the way it was. So first of all, we're going to talk about correlation, which we also call association. So we try to figure out how are two variables associated, or how do they correlate. And so there's three different types of correlations. There's positive, negative, and no correlation. And again, you may hear the word correlation, or they may use the word association. Either way, those two words mean the same thing. So if it's a positive correlation or positive association, that means that as one variable increases, so does the other. So for instance, as you get taller, your shoe size tends to get bigger. So when you were little, like when you were a toddler, right, you were smaller or shorter than you are now, and you were a smaller shoe size, right? But as you got taller and grew up, your shoe size got bigger, right? So that's a positive correlation. That's a positive association. As one of the variables increase your height, as did your shoe size, right? Um, but a negative correlation says that as one variable increases, the other decreases. So, for instance, the hours you spend playing video games versus the hours you spend sleeping. So, the hours you spend playing video games are increasing here, but the hours you spend sleeping are decreasing. So, that's a negative association or negative correlation. The more you play your game, the less you tend to sleep. If you go home from school and you play the game 8 hours, you're probably not going to sleep as much as if you play 2 hours, right? Um, I know some of you guys stay up all night playing games and then go to school the next day. So there's definitely a negative correlation between the hours you spend playing video games and the hours you spend sleeping. So we call that a negative correlation or negative association. And then the next one is nonlinear, or we just say no. Not we usually don't say nonlinear for these. We say that there's no correlation or no association, and it is nonlinear given the fact that it's not in a line. But really, if you see something like this, you'd say, oh, there's no association or no correlation at all, because things can be positive or negative and still be kind of nonlinear. So what this means is, as one variable increases, the other it has no effect on the other thing, right? So like if you think about hair color versus what grade you're in. If your hair is black, that doesn't mean you're in a certain grade. Or if your hair is blonde, that doesn't mean you're in a certain grade. It has those two things have nothing to do with each other. So a scatter plot trying to figure out the correlation between these two things would be all over the place. And so we'd say, oh, there's no association, or there's no correlation. Okay. So if you have scissors, cut that in half. If not, fold it in half, and then put that in your journal. Okay, so next up, we have um, the worksheet. Okay, and so you want to start on the side that says student handout 1. We have scatter plots and association. And again, I told you guys we use the word correlation, but we also use the word association. Those two things are interchangeable. So scatter plots are graphs that use points to display graphical data with two variables or bivariate data. So bi means two, and then variate means variable. So two variables or bivariate. Bivariate. So two variables or bivariate. That's all that means. If there were three variables, we would say trivariate. Um, Scatter plots can help determine if one variable has an effect on the other, or if there are overall trends, patterns, or correlations between the variables. And here we have correlations, but also associations, because again, those two words mean the same thing. We're trying to figure out if there are any correlations or associations between the two variables you're measuring. So Susie went to the mall and she surveyed shoppers to see how many items they purchased and the total amount of money they spent at the mall. So she's trying to figure out if there's a correlation between the number of items they purchased and the total amount of money they spent at the mall. She created the scatter plot below. So the first question says, how many shoppers did she survey? So if we um, look at the scatter plot here and try to figure out how many shoppers did she survey, all you have to do is count the dots. Each dot is a shopper, right? So you just count the number of dots. There's 16 in total, and so that's how many um, shoppers she surveyed. Just count the dots. And then the next question says, does the number of items purchased seem to have an effect on the total amount of money a shopper spent? So if we look here, this down here is the number of items, right? And then here's the total amount of money. So if I look here, as you know, we got 4 items here, and then here we have 7 items. Well, you can clearly see that there's a general trend. The more, I mean, here is an outlier. You know, you only spend 3 items and spend $140, but generally, as I buy more items, okay, let me use a different color. Generally, as I buy more items, I tend to spend more money. And so if you look at the overall trend here, that's what that line is here, looking at the overall trend. As I buy more items, I tend to spend more money. Okay, so there is a positive correlation between the number of items I buy and the amount of money I spend, which makes sense. You know, like the more you buy, the more you spend. If you go to the store and you buy a bunch of candies, the more candies you buy, the more money you end up spending. Okay, so down here we have positive association. It's 2 variables have a positive association when the variables move up. So we look here, start from the bottom, these variables are gradually going up. So that means that as one increases, the other increases. A negative association, it means 2 variables have the opposite association. They move in opposite directions. Okay, so for example, as one variable increases, the other decreases. So like the hours you spend on social media versus the hours you spend studying. So the more hours you spend on social media, the less hours you would spend studying. So those 2 things are opposites, a negative association. And then 2 things are no association, when they have no effect on each other. You know, like shoe size and the color shirt you wear. It has nothing to do with each other. So there's no association between those 2 things. So down here it says, describe the type of association you would expect to see. So if you have the hours a person spent studying and the number of states they visited, there's no association between the hours you spent studying and the number of states you're going to. B says the hours a person studies and the grade on the exam, but it's clearly a positive association because the more hours you spend studying, the better you do on the test. C says the hours a person studies and the hours they spend watching TV. So that's a negative association. If I spend time, the more time I spend watching TV, the less time I am going to spend on studying. That's just a fact. So it's a negative association between those 2 variables. On the back, if a straight line can be drawn to follow the overall trend, we say that it is a trend line. And if the points are close together, if they're clustered together, we say that the association is strong. And if the data is widely spread, there may be an association, but we'd say that it's a weak association. So here we want to label the type of association and tell whether or not it's linear or non-linear. So as I said before, you can have positive and negative association, but it may be linear or non-linear. And so all linear means, the root word in linear is line. All it means is, can you draw a straight line through that data? And if you can, it's linear. If you can't draw a straight line, then it's non-linear. So if you look at the first one, this is a positive association, it's going up, and I can draw a straight line. So it's a linear, positive, and it's strong because these are clustered together. Number 2, we have a linear association. I can pretty much draw a line through it. It's also positive, but the dots are not as clustered as they are here. So this is a weak association. And then here we have a positive association. It is going up. They are close together. It is strong. However, that line is not straight. So this is non-linear. If you look at this set here, we have a straight line going down. This is a negative association. They're clustered together, so it's pretty strong. It's a strong association. So you say it's linear, negative, and strong. Here we have a weak association. They're not as clustered. That line is not straight, so it's not linear, and it's a negative association. Here we have no correlation at all. If there's no correlation, it's going to be weak and nonlinear. There's no way I can draw a line through that, whether it be linear or nonlinear. There's no correlation at all. All right, so here we're going to describe the types of associations, right? So a person's height and a person's shoe size. Well, obviously that's positive because the taller you are, the bigger your feet tend to be. So you tend to have a bigger shoe size than someone who's shorter than you. It doesn't always happen like that, but usually the taller you are, the bigger your shoe size. So then this one says the number of letters in a person's name and a person's IQ. That has nothing to do with anything. It doesn't matter how long your name. Just because your name is long doesn't make you any smarter. Just because your name is short doesn't make you any dumber, so to speak. So it has nothing. The letters in the name and a person's IQ. There's no correlation. They're not related. The number of absences a student has versus their GPA. There's a negative association. The more you miss, right, that's going up. The more you miss, the less you learn. So as you miss more time, you're going to learn less. So there's a negative association. One's increasing, the absences are increasing, but your GPA is decreasing. Okay, in this one, we're just matching the graphs to the thing here. Now I'm going to give you the answers, but I'm not really going to explain. What I want you guys to do is to write me like a little note as to why you think that these answers make sense. Those are obviously the answers, but I want you guys to tell me why they're the answers. And then at the bottom, I want you guys to summarize the lesson, what you've learned, and also the questions you still have. And then we'll discuss that tomorrow.